Well, hey everybody, welcome to our book launch live party for author JP Sloan. His newest book, The Curse Mandate, comes out today. I am so excited to have him here. We've got some really great stuff planned, but let's welcome him on. JP, how are you?
I'm festive. I am here in my Christmas room with my Santa hat. I got some cookies and some single malt. I'm ready to roll.
So guys, JP is playing Santa today. He has brought us some really cool stuff about his new book, including a little excerpt from the book and some exclusive information. I am so excited about this. It's going to be amazing. Now, we're going to get started. I know that people are logging on. If you are logging on, chat room's on the right. Go ahead and say hi. Let us know where you're from. We're so excited to see all of you. Feel free to give us questions throughout the entire party. There is a red question mark box that you can click. That way we will know what's a question and what is just commenting. But if you miss it, that's totally okay. We will be searching as we go. So let us know when you have questions. But we will be doing a special question and answer toward the end of today's broadcast. Now, JP, your book came out today, and I know that it is the third in your series. So before we jump into talking about this new book, I want to hear just a little bit about what has happened up to this point. So catch us up.
Sure thing. So this is the Dark Choir series. It's urban fantasy, or you could call it occult thrillers. That's the way I like to really call it. Urban fantasies, to me, kind of call to mind the hyper-powered, badass chick fighting werewolves and vampires. That's not really the substance of my books. The books center around a hermetic practitioner by the name of Dorian Lake, who practices a kind of magic which is really close to the vest. It's could be mistaken for coincidence, and that's the entire point. I wanted to write books where magic wasn't throwing fireballs at werewolves. It was more like the curses and hexes making minor changes. And I really wanted to play on the sense of doom. The first book, The Cursed Merchant, is your introduction to Dorian. And it's very much a noir theme. You have a femme fatale, him trying to solve a mystery, pounding the streets of Baltimore, trying to figure out the problem. And then I followed that up with The Cursed Servant, which was more of a straight horror novel. I really punched up the occult elements, and we get our first glimpse at something supernatural in that book. And in these two books, Dorian has cultivated a kind of antagonistic relationship with the Presidium, which is a cabal that controls Washington, D.C., and they have protected America from outside magical influence since its inception. Which brings us now to The Cursed Mandate. After Dorian has lost his soul in the first book and has spent the next book trying to find it again, lest he become the puppet of the dark forces, which I call the Dark Choir, we are now in the precipice of the Presidium being in the middle of a crossfire between a hidden enemy and the Dark Choir itself. And if the Presidium goes down, nothing will be safe in America anymore. And Dorian is doing his best to play the middle and not get involved. Not very well, because Dorian always tries his best not to get sucked into everything, and he does anyway. And that's, in a nutshell, the environment of The Cursed Mandate.
I feel like I really like how you describe that. He tries to stay out of it, but he gets sucked in anyway. And I feel like that is something that is so relatable because we all experience that at one point or another.
Absolutely.
Now, we are going to be talking a little bit more about your book. I know we're going to be asking some questions. We've got an interview. We've got some really cool things going on to hear a little bit more about your story in just a little bit. But before we get started with that, we're just going to do a little something special. I'm really excited about this because there are some amazing people who have taken a look at your book and they have some messages for you. So I wanted to go ahead and play a little montage from some of your author friends, and we are going to jump in and do that right now. So let me pull up the video. And if you are joining us live, go ahead, jump over to the chat box, say hello, let us know who you are, where you're from, and how much you love JP. Here we go with the video.
Hi, this is Dana Gunn, author of the new Mistletoe Mysteries, Murder at the North Pole. I want to congratulate JP Sloan on the Curse Mandate release coming out soon. Way to go.
Hi, I'm Meredith Bond, and I've known JP Sloan for many years now. I first met him when he walked into my class on how to get published. And a few years after that, we became critique partners, where I learned that he's not only a really nice guy, he's an amazing writer. So when he told me that he was coming out with a new book, I was like, yes, this is great. Oh, I mean, it's good for JP, but it's better for me. It's for you. This is so amazing. Another JP Sloan novel. This is incredible. So what are you doing watching me? Why aren't you over at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Apple iBooks buying his book? Go ahead, click, 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 buy. Thank you.
Okay, so that was awesome. We got to hear from some of your friends on how much they love your book, how excited they were, and thank you guys so much for sending us those videos. That was fantastic. I want to get to know your book just a little bit better, so the next thing I want to do is actually go through and do a reading from your book. So I know you've picked out an excerpt for us, but I know you can set up just a little bit, so let us know what we're about to hear. And I know you said it's kind of something that doesn't need a lot of setup, so I'm really excited for this. Go ahead, let us know what we've got.
All right, so here is a scene in the towards the middle, the thick of the action here, where Dorian is doing his usual thing. He is investigating a paranormal situation with the help of the local police. So I'm going to bring it right in. Dorian and two of his associates. One is a detective with the Baltimore cops. The other one is a good friend of his from the very first book that's just now starting to tag along with him and learn a little bit about the life. I stepped into the shadowed hallway. The smell of incense grew stronger. The lack of air conditioning kept the aroma stagnant in the back half of the building. The energy continued to swirl forward and backward, up and down. Turner reached for the doorknob with one hand as he unbuttoned his blazer with the other. The blazer fell open in his ample midsection, revealing a holstered gun strapped against his side. I gave Turner a nod, and he opened the door. It creaked against its hinge, the obnoxious sound winding down as the door finally reached the side wall. Julian whispered, "Really?" I peered inside the room, which was thick with palpable malevolence. I reached inside for the switch, but nothing happened when I flipped it. At the far end of the room, a lone candle sat on the floor. Just one candle. It seemed to be a simple white taper, hardly enough to fill the office with incense. "What's that writing?" Julian asked, pointing over my shoulder. I squinted into the darkness and spotted some white script on the floor beside the candle. I gave the light switch another jiggle, with the same result as before. Turner pulled a pen light from his blazer pocket and twisted it on before handing it to me. "Thanks," I whispered. I swept the light into the room. It was utterly empty. 4 bare walls. The beam of light sliced through wafts of smoke. The energy in the air pulsed as I took a step inside, aiming the light for the walls. I expected to find the house script of the Nombrador sketched onto the walls, but found no such thing. It was a clean room, absolutely empty, except for the candle at the far wall. And the summoning circle in white chalk the beam of my pen light illuminated as I swiped it across the floor. I shot my arms out, catching both Julian and Turner as they leaned in to look into the room. "Watch it!" Turner looked down at the circle ringed in glyphs of the Clavicula Salamana. "Oh, great, more Satan shit." Julian asked, "Do you recognize that?" "Well, vaguely. I know what it is, at least. It's a goetic summoning circle." "What's that mean?" Julian urged. "It means Carruthers is no dabbler. Stay here and don't touch anything." I slipped sideways into the room, keeping my toes well away from the chalk on the floor. If this had been one of Zeno's circles, I wouldn't have been as delicate. But my limited experience with Goetia had taught me 2 important facts about the summoning of Salamonic devils. The first was that you had to lay every millimeter of your summoning construct in an exacting, precise manner if you don't want the dark choir to reach through the void and rip your face off. The second thing my experience has taught me was to stay the hell away from Goetia. I panned the penlight over the scribing on the floor. It was large, nearly consuming the entire room. I found 5 more candles on the perimeter, extinguished, marking the points of a hexagram. Someone had extinguished those candles recently, judging by the smoky air. Yet they left the one burning. Had we surprised them? Did they rush to end the circle? By the thrumming, hungry pulse of energy lashing at my hand, I recognized that this circle was anything but dismissed. "There's something by the candle," Julian called in a throaty whisper. I aimed the penlight for the candle and found an envelope set against the side. I stepped gingerly around the perimeter of the chalkwork, pausing where the hexagram reached the wall. Holding my breath, I took a long step over the first corner of the hexagram and one of the extinguished candles. Then again on the next. Only when my feet landed on clear ground beyond the chalk did I exhale. I crouched down and inspected the envelope. Ink calligraphy swirled across the front, and as the electric beam of my light steadied the wavering illumination of the candle, I realized this wasn't a rushed circle. We hadn't barged in and halted the summoning. No, we'd been expected. It's addressed to me, I called. What? Jillian gasped. Carruthers knew I was coming. I squinted at the envelope, wrestling with the decision whether to take it or leave it be. With a good solid reinforcement of my personal shielding, I reached out and took the envelope, making sure not to disturb the chalk just beyond. I held the pen light in my mouth and slid my finger inside the envelope, pulling it open. A tiny card inside bore similar calligraphy. I slid it out. The lettering, in strokes so graceful they seemed to mock me, spelled, "Good luck."
Wow! Just wow! Wow, I don't even know what to say for that. Like, I need to know what happens now. That was amazing. And guys, in case you hadn't known this before, and I only recently found this out, JP is a bit of a stage person. And so his reading was fantastic and very, very energetic and really just one of the best readings I've ever heard. So good job, JP.
Thank you.
I always love hanging out with you because you're very dramatic about things. I love it.
Not right.
Okay, so now we've heard a little bit about the story. We've heard a little bit from the story. I want to get into talking to you about this story, about your series, and about you as a writer in general. So I've got a couple of questions for you that I want to talk to you about. So I want to know, how did you come up with this concept? I know that there's a lot involved in it, but how did you come up with the concept for the series? And then furthermore, how did you come up with Dorian?
Well, I have some experience with the occult personally. I studied a lot of it, both the natural versions, i.e. Wicca, Sex Wicca, and some of the old styles like Stregoria and Voodoo. And then I also studied some of the more hermetic styles, which is a little more of this terrain. The practices which align more with ancient rites of Gnosticism, some of the Egyptian schools, the Golden Dawn, Rosicrucianism, and a lot of the things that require secret knowledge and secret languages, rote memorization. It's not built off of a sense of nature and cycles. It's all lodge work, if you will. And I got the idea for this series. Whenever I first moved to Maryland from my hometown in New Orleans, we moved up here due to Katrina. And not long after, I got a job in Baltimore, where I still work today. And driving into Baltimore, I noticed all kinds of interesting things about that city. A lot of alleyways that lead between buildings. And there are some old buildings built at the very base. And sometimes new buildings are built around them, such that you have glass and steel skyscrapers, and at the base you have these really old brick buildings and alleyways with cobblestones still. And then I learned that Edgar Allan Poe had lived there for a while, and actually, trivia fact, the house on Amity that Dorian lives is based off of the Edgar Allan Poe Museum, which was where he lived for a time in Baltimore. It all worked together. I thought about, what if down these dark, dank alleyways, there's an entire realm of lodge mystics dealing in magic? And what if magic is just parallel to life? And I thought to myself, well, my God, what if I took a noir thriller and had a kind of a detective character who worked with this kind of thing? And instead of making it like Jim Butcher's Dresden, where it's very overt magic and clear monsters, what if this is all super feasible? You know, the cognitive dissonance, I wanted to be very narrow. And it all kind of played out from there. In Dorian was a character I just spun out of whole cloth. I wanted to make a character that was kind of snooty and privileged and kind of an egomaniac, but one that was likable enough to where readers didn't want him to die and fail. So I gave him lots of baggage. Both of his parents have died, In fact, they died within a week of each other, and that's what sent him on his search for meaning and answers. And that was when he was picked up by his mentor, Emil Desiderio, and moved to England to truly learn his craft. But his mentor taught him a way to do magic and work hexes and charms that doesn't require you to be evil. He didn't want to teach evil. And so I thought this is a great middle ground. Dorian's this character in between privilege and constantly struggling to earn a paycheck. He has great tastes in alcohols and boozes, scotches, wines, but he still doesn't have a hell of a lot of money. He believes that he can do anything, and yet constantly throughout the books, the universe seems to constantly remind him that no, you can't do anything, and here's another example of how it'll smack you down. But he keeps getting back up. And the other thing about Dorian is that he did lose his soul in the first book, and the Dark Choir series is 2 trilogies. The first is the Curse trilogy, which the Curse Mandate is the cap on that trilogy, which is his descent into questionable magics, and one might say slowly becoming tainted, becoming perhaps more evil. And then the next 3 books would be the Dark trilogy. Would be the Dark Interest, the Dark Principle, and I'm going to cap the whole thing off with the Dark Choir. And that'll be him clawing his way back into his humanity to try to gain back his soul and beat the bad guys.
I love that. I always love books that explore getting down into that more evil, bad territory and then having to redeem yourself. So love that. Now, I know you mentioned that you used to live in New Orleans, and then you mentioned that you work in Baltimore. And clearly Baltimore has very strongly influenced your stories. But did your experiences down in New Orleans also have to do with what you were talking about within your stories? Did that influence it in any way?
Well, that's where I learned a lot of the occult. You have a lot more access to it down there in New Orleans. And I worked with a group of Wiccans for a while, and then some old craft people who definitely wandered into some questionable moral zones. And I ran into some lodge folk, real life people who I model this from. I learned the nitty gritty, that I'm putting into these books. And I'm trying my best not to concoct a lot of stuff. I really want you to be able to hit Wikipedia and start, researching some of the stuff I throw out there. I've made up a couple of figures in history because it, just suits me to do so. But if you really go into the models and practices of what Dorian's doing, you can see there's some theory out there. In the next book, The Dark Interest, the beginning of the next trilogy, I am going to throw in some real, palpable New Orleanian style magic, voodoo. Louisiana voodoo at that, because there is a difference between Louisiana voodoo and Haitian voodoo. And you're going to see a lot more of that influence in the next book.
Gotcha. Okay, so you have mentioned that the book is 6 books long, and we have finished the first trilogy. We're going into the second trilogy. And I know that you've got some very big differences between where you're going within these stories. We're getting a little bit darker, and we have to kind of redeem ourselves in this next one. And I know we've got some really cool stuff coming up within that, and I don't want to, take any of your glory here. So I know you've got some exclusive information for us. We've got something really cool that we're going to do. So I'm going to stop talking, and I want you to tell us what's going on right now.
All right. So recently I have completed The Dark Interest, book 4, and I submitted it to the publisher about a month ago. Well, just before this weekend, I got something in the email. I got a offer for publication. And so I thought today on the launch of book 3, I would go ahead and sign the contract for the 4th book here on the air, if you will. So I'm going to do just that. On behalf of author J.P. Sloan, on this, the 19th day of December, there it is. I've signed the 4th book.
Congratulations. This is such exciting news, and we got it live on camera, which is amazing. This is the first time on any Reading Transforms event that we have had a live contract signing. So thank you so much for letting us witness this amazing event within your author brand and within the book world.
I think that deserves a drink. Cheers, everyone.
Fantastic. So there you have it, guys. We are definitely getting the 4th book within the series. That is going to come out sometime in the near future. I don't know when. I don't know if they know when yet. But we will keep you posted as we know when it comes out.
Well,
now,
I happen to know a little bit. Right now it is scheduled for January of 2018, unless some spots open up. And it could go into late 2017.
Fantastic. Well, there you go, guys. Stuff I didn't even know. That's awesome. I love getting surprised on the show. It's so much fun.
You know what? There's something I should have mentioned before that I didn't mention. It actually deals with the Curse Mandate. I talked to you about books 1 and 2, The Cursed Merchant and The Cursed Servant. Well, it turns out there's actually a prequel out there. It's a short story called Bait and the Witch. And it is it can be found in the Curiosity Quills Chronology anthology. It is a good size, about 10,000 word short story, and it sets up events that take place 10 years prior to The Cursed Merchant. And I mention it because there is a character in that prequel which is about to come into the series late in this book, and she's going to be rolling with us for the rest of the series. So keep your eye out for that one. And if you really want the full Dark Choir experience, pick up the Chronology anthology from Curiosity Quills and read Bait and Witch.
Fantastic. That is great to know. So, guys, when we are linking in our show notes, we will link to all of these things. JP, you will send me that link after we're done here. And I will put that in the show notes for you if you are watching our rebroadcast and you are not here hanging out with us live. And again, shout out to those of you who are hanging out with us live. Thank you so much. And that actually brings me to my next point. We are going to be doing our live question and answer in just a few minutes. So now is the time to start popping your questions in. If you have not already, over on the right side of your chat box screen, you can go ahead and let us know when you have a question for JP, and we will get those answered in just a few minutes. Now, before we jump into that, we actually have a game. We're going to play some games here. Well, one game. I'm excited about it because I feel like we're going to get some really good answers on this one. So we are going to play Would You Rather, and we're going to see what happens. So I'm going to pull up my questions here. Okay, so I'm going to try to stump JP. I probably will fail at it because I feel like he's just smarter than me. So we're gonna see what happens.
Oh, posh.
Well, I feel like no matter what I ask, you're gonna have a really good snappy response to it. And I don't think that fast with snappy responses. So I feel like you're just gonna blow us all away. But let's see. All right, so my first one is actually based on something I've set up a little bit. So we've got your Dark Choir series, but you also have another book. So just real quick, give me the highlights reel of Yea Though I Walk.
Yea Though I Walk. It is a crossover horror western genre. It takes place in just after the Civil War. It is the story of a gunslinger who is doing his best to save a town against a turf war between vampires and Wendigo, which are a kind of cannibal spirit that takes over people from the Native American tribes, from the Algonquins, and I translated it over towards the Shoshone. It is a real brain baker kind of horror. It's existential, and you're stuck inside of the mind of an individual who's trying to learn the truths of this town. And as it turns out, the greatest monster in the entire valley may not be the vampires or the Wendigo. It might be man himself.
Wow, that sounds awesome. So here's my question for you. Would you rather be a character in the Dark Choir series or a character in Yea Though I Walk? And bonus points for telling me if you would end up surviving.
Oh, dear Lord. I would much rather be in the Dark Choir series because it's basically this world with a parallel existence just underneath it in the basements. Yea Though I Walk is this dreadful bloodbath, you know? I mean, there's a very little chance I would probably survive Yea Though I Walk because it would require divine intervention as far as I'm concerned.
That's very intense. So there we have it. JP would not survive in his standalone book.
Absolutely not. No, I'm stunned anyone survived that book.
Well, that's good to know too. All right. So would you rather, and this one's tough, would you rather never write again for people to read publicly or have to only write in your least favorite genre?
Well, I am an avowed attention whore. I crave validation and recognition. So I would much rather write in my least favorite genre because I will still get the attention. I'll still get people reading me. I'm doing this as an extrovert author. You know, I need people to read my stuff. That's why I do it. That's why I love writing. You know, I don't love writing because I'm this tortured soul in a basement trying to get, vomit out all of my demons on the page. I'm doing it to entertain people. And I'm pretty sure I can still entertain people if I'm writing my least favorite genre. I'm not going to tell you what that is because I don't want to alienate anyone watching.
That's a very wise choice, and I was not going to ask you.
Excellent. Good. Huh.
See, I know. Guys, if you do not know, we're friends, and I would never do that to him. So
So be sure to be friends with Katie, or she will do it to you.
Well, maybe, but not really. But you probably wouldn't be on the show if you weren't my friend. So, it kind of works out. I guess we'll never have to find out.
Well, again, membership has its privileges.
Yes. All right, so I've got one more for you, and this is based on your Dark Choir series. So I know when we were talking about your book, you said that in the course of this third book, a lot of people are being publicly outed, and their secrets are being told, and things are happening. So I want to know, would you rather be the person who is being outed or the person who is outing people if you were put in a situation like that?
Oh, in this situation, I'd much rather be the one being outed because the people doing the outing don't last very long. The Presidium goes on an outright purge in this case. But, in general, to make this less specific, I would rather be the one being outed because I don't like the notion of someone violating consent. And that's what that is. Anyone who has some kind of special situation that's not something they want to share. There's a kind of a social contract. To violate that makes you a bastard, and I'd rather be the one betrayed than the one betrayed.
Well said. Well said. That's going to be one of those, quoted things. All right. So, guys, we're at the end of our game now. I want to move on to questions because I know we have them. So, here we go. If you have any last-minute questions, now's the time to pop them in right side of the chat box. If you are watching our rebroadcast, feel free to ask your questions down in the comments if we do not answer them, and I will forward those along to JP, and we will try to get that answered on his blog or maybe one of our blog posts or maybe even some short videos. So if you have a question that is not answered and you are watching the rebroadcast, let us know down below in the chat box. And if you're here live, let me know. All right, here we go. Let me see. Oh, okay, this is a good one. I know that your book is bringing up some national mythology. Can you speak to how that played out within your writing process? So I think that is in reference to how you are researching this and how you're writing it into your story.
Well, there's a lot of this stuff that I just have absorbed over the last couple of decades of interest in the occult and in history. The Cursed Mandate starts walking all over Brad Meltzer's dance floor. Brad Meltzer being a big author of American national conspiracy style thrillers, national treasure kind of stuff, the conspiracy theories surrounding the formation of the country. This is the central pith of where we end up with the Cursed Mandate. And I adore that kind of mythology, not because I believe in it, but because I think it's a great story. And I also have a degree in history, so a lot of this stuff was already in here. But there was a lot of stuff I did have to research, especially topographically. Geomancy is a big part of this book, and I play a lot with maps, which was tricky, without having those neat little Tolkien-esque maps drawn for you in the actual matter. So I had to describe the best I could the locations in and around DC. And hopefully, if anyone is that into the book, and hopefully you are, you'll probably pull up a Google Maps and see what I'm getting at while you read.
That's a fantastic idea. Guys, PSA, if you are reading his books, pull up Google Maps and kind of track it as you go. That's awesome.
Maybe in the second edition, I'll get the publisher to add in maps as they go.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. That might even be cool if you have that done for your blog or something, just so that people can see them now.
Oh, sure. Now I got a project.
You too. I'm a huge fan of maps. My artist and I have been talking about book maps for quite a few days in this past week. So I'm very map focused at the moment. I would absolutely love to see them in relation to your book as well. So I've got another question for you. This one is an awesome one. What else are you working on? Now, we know that you are working on your 4th book, so let us know.
Well, the 4th book now is in the can, so to speak, and the publisher is going to start kicking that around. After I finished that, I went directly into another standalone, and this is my first attempt at young adult fiction, my first YA book. Not because I decided to write YA, just because I've already got about 20,000 words in. I realize it is YA, just as a matter of course. Why not? But it's a YA science fiction novel called Bonfire Black. And it takes place shortly before the thermal death of the universe. So it's pretty extreme future stuff.
Wow, that is extreme. I like it. Very nice. One day you and I are going to sit down and we're just going to talk about how you come up with these concepts because I just love it. I feel like it's so perfectly you.
You should see my Dropbox folder on novels. I've got so many already open. I have like 3 half-started books already. But I've resolved I need to finish the Dark Choir series, but every now and then I need to take a break and do something different.
So there you have it, guys. He's got at least 3 more that we're getting soon. Okay, so I'm looking through our questions. Let me see. Oh, here's a good one. Your wife is also an author. Do you plan on writing anything together?
Well, we already have, a long time ago. When we were engaged to get married, we sat down and decided to write a novel together, co-write a novel, because we were of the mind that if you can survive that, you can survive damn near anything together as a couple. And so we wrote a novel, which we kind of had a working title, Witch Wars, The Mark of the Cheval was the name of that one. And it's really kind of similar content to what we both write now, urban fantasy. A lot of witches against witches and other practitioners, some Asatru thrown in, some shapeshifters. A little more straight up urban fantasy, what you expect to see. We keep talking about one of these days sitting back down and trying to re-edit it into something readable again, but I think we're both on a trajectory right now. She's got this, her American Scions series that she's working on. She's about to finish book 2. Great stuff, by the way. You need to check out Courtney Sloan's Of Scions of Men. It's a near future dystopian vampire lore. Right? Right. So we've already done it, and I don't know if we're ever going to come back together on that level again because, like I said, we both have a huge docket to write already.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And guys, we will be putting Courtney's links in the show notes as well. So if you're watching our rebroadcast, check the link below. They are down in there. Okay, so I have one last question. I don't know if you can answer this for us, but let's see. I think this is a good way to kind of wrap up our Q&A time. So the final question is, can you give us any exclusive information from book 4? A little secret or just maybe a little something just to kind of hold them over until we get it?
Well, I do have, I've already kind of dropped a little nugget. The character from the prequel short story will return, and she's going to stay involved for the rest of the series. And I love this character. She's a Strega witch. We're talking dark side, deep dark side kind of witch. And she provides a kind of foil for the character that I introduced in book 2, Chess, as Dorian's potential love interest. And so you're really going to get into more, I don't want to say romance because this is not very romantic, but we're definitely increasing the heat and the rating on the next book. And another little tidbit is the ending of this book has my beta readers screaming at me. So at the end of book 4, you will finish it, put it down, and or throw it through the nearest window.
That's amazing. I feel like with your dramaticness, that is just the perfect way to end a story. And I feel like all of the books have to be one of those, like, they want to strangle you or hug you. I don't know which.
It's not an outright cliffhanger, but definitely one of the main through lines. I threw a major nuclear bomb right in the last sentence, the last 2 words of the book. And I feel like it really worked out according to my beta readers.
That's fantastic. Well, we cannot wait to get our hands on book 4. JP, this has been so wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for signing your contract live. That's amazing. Do you have any last words for our audience before we go?
Oh, well, just read my stuff. You know, I really think it's a unique kind of take on urban fantasy. It's like I said, if you're into limited cognitive dissonance, if you're not into magic and monsters, if you're more into mood and conspiracies, this is up your alley. And Curse Mandate brings the conspiracy levels to a complete explosion.
All right, guys, listen, before we go, if you check the right side of our screen, we actually have the direct link to the Curse Mandate. It is up there. All you have to do is click on it. It will take you right over to Amazon. You can grab your copy right now. So if you have absolutely loved this, if you've enjoyed our interview, if you enjoyed the excerpt that we read, this is for you. You can go ahead and grab it right there. If you are watching the rebroadcast, this will be down in the show notes, so you can check below and you can click over and you can get your copy right now. Now, I know the cover is something that recently came on our radar. I only just got to see it a few days ago. It's pretty awesome looking, so take a look at that. I'm pointing to my side of the screen because it's over here right now, but you guys, it's over here. Look how awesome that is. Totally love that. So go ahead, click over to Amazon. You can grab your copy right now. And like we said, all of these links will be down in the show notes below if you are watching our rebroadcast. JP, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. This has been awesome. I totally loved your Santa hat and your Christmas cookies and your village behind you.
Yeah, and I think now is time for a cookie. Eggnog.
I think it is a good cookie break time. Fantastic. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. This has been wonderful. We love seeing you guys here. The rebroadcast will be up in just a few days, unless you are watching the rebroadcast, and then, baby, it is up. Go ahead and check out author J.P. Sloan's social media, and make sure you connect with him over the next couple of days. Let him know how you like the book. Go ahead and yell at him if you want, because apparently we do that a lot around here. JP, before we go, give everybody your social media links.
All right. So I'm on Facebook. I have an author site, JP Sloan, author JP Sloan on Facebook. You can also do a search for it. On Twitter, I am at J_P_Sloan. SLOAN, no E.
Fantastic. All right, so guys, make sure you check them out. Thank you so much for joining us. I am KM Robinson of KM Robinson Photography and Reading Transforms. And if you totally love this, you can jump onto readingtransforms.com. You can also jump onto our book launch live link right from that site. And you have your own party too if you are an author who is launching a book in the next couple of months. We would love to see you. JP, this has been wonderful. I cannot wait to do this again.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys, you have a wonderful day and stay inspired.